What is up, guys? Justin here with kind of a cool different video for you guys today. We are heading up to another like mini video game, comic-ish pop culture convention right now. This one's a little bit closer to home than the one in Merrill, Wisconsin. The other weekend, we're not selling at this one. My friend Josh is selling at this one, but we are not. We're just going to hang out for the day. The main reason we're going, though, is because the voice actress who does the voice for, or did the voice for Zelda in Breath of the Wild is actually from, well, she's from the town that I'm currently in. We just stopped for lunch, but she's going to be there. And so we're going to get to hopefully meet her and have her sign, our copies of Breath of the Wild, and she's doing a Q&A and stuff. So that's the main reason we're going, but I'm sure there'll be some other cool stuff to do there as well. So we just stopped at this St. Vincent de Paul thrift store over here. I picked up a bag of a couple NES controllers and some adapters in there, 10 bucks. Everything at that store was kind of overpriced, but that's not a horrible deal for it. So I've got another deal I'm making on the way up to the convention as well for something pretty cool. Hopefully we can find the house. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere, but I'll update you guys once we grab that, and then we'll be heading to the convention. Here is what I picked up on the way to the convention: a Watermelon N64, both cables, controller, really nice joystick. There's a copy of Ocarina of Time in there as well. This actually came from the same estate where those boxed NES games came from that I bought a few weekends ago at the garage sales. And I kept in touch with the guy that was having the sale, told him, hit me up if you come across anything else. And sure enough, he sent me some pictures of this. They were gonna sell it at the sale they had last weekend for $50. I offered $60 if they would hold it for me until this weekend when I was in the area, and they did. So that was awesome. But what was even cooler is when I got there, they threw these in for me for free since I had bought the games from their sale a few weeks ago. But they also had this sitting there, and this is a completely empty box. There's no styrofoam or anything in here even, but it's in really nice shape. Not perfect, but really nice shape. I asked if it was for sale because I wasn't expecting to see this there, and they were like, well, I don't know. I offered them $10 for it and they took it. So $70 for the box and the Watermelon 64 bundle, a few extras there. Not too bad. Time to go meet Princess Zelda. So the event is called Geek Up, and I believe it's the 3rd annual one they've done now. And I think actually most of the proceeds from this event go to local charities, which is kind of cool. One of the reasons why we didn't mind spending as much as we did at this show. But here's an overview shot of the room here. When we first got there, there was only like a half hour left in the first autograph session, so we pretty much made a beeline over to the table where Patricia Summerset was, who I mentioned earlier was the voice actress for Zelda in Breath of the Wild. She's also one of the co-founders of this event. So here's us standing in line here, waiting to get our games signed, and not only did we get our games signed, but we also got pictures with her. Me rocking my Zelda shirt, and Sabrina got a picture with her as well. Definitely wasn't cheap. I think we spent $100 to get 4 games signed and 2 pictures, but for myself as a collector, Sabrina is someone who loves the game. They're kind of priceless, and again, it was for charity. So here's me geeking out over my signed copy here. Apparently she knows Hylian as well, because in all the games we got signed for her, she wrote a little message in Hylian at the bottom. The other co-founder of this event is the owner of a local comic book shop, so naturally there was a bunch of comics and comic-related items for sale. They also had a silent auction going on, so here's a shot here of some awesome Zelda prints that were signed by not only Patricia, but some of the other voice actors and actresses from the game. Sabrina actually bought one of those, which I'll show at the end. They had a bunch of other stuff available in the silent auction as well, including this poster here, which was signed by the voice of Mario. I thought that was kind of cool. This vendor here was actually a local board game shop, local to my area, that made the trek up to the event to be a vendor, which is something I'm probably going to pursue next year. I think it would have been a little bit more stress than it was worth this year with that show we just had in Merrill, Wisconsin a couple weekends ago, but definitely next year I'm going to be inquiring about some table space at this event. This was the downstairs level of the event here, where they had a bunch of games and systems set up for people to play. It was kind of an interesting setup because it was in like a restaurant type area, and it was kind of crowded, so we just wanted to take a quick lap through to see what was going on. I think the main draw down here was Smash Bros. They had some tournaments and stuff going on. Here's a shot of my buddy Josh's booth here. He's the one that we've sold with before at our local record shows. We also helped man his booth for a little while at MGC, and now that I think about it, he was the only video game vendor at this convention. There was video game related stuff available at multiple different booths, but he was the only one that actually had physical games and systems. So here's a look at his showcase here, some of his higher end stuff. I ended up picking out one NES game out of his showcase that he gave me a good deal on. He also threw in a Game Boy game for me, which I will show momentarily. Now, before I get to the Q&A session that we attended, I wanted to do a quick pickup recap on the day. Obviously, the highlights being these autographed copies of Breath of the Wild here. Sabrina and I both got one personalized to us for our collections, and then the other 2 copies we got more generically signed so that we have some flexibility. We can use them as gifts or whatnot down the line. And then moving on to that Watermelon 64 bundle that I got here with the Ocarina of Time and the matching controller for $60. Came with the cables too. And then they threw in these freebies here. This copy of Sky Shark was kind of interesting. It had this cardboard box shoved in the game box, which fit nicely, but I don't recognize this as anything that came in an NES box. So if someone knows otherwise, drop a comment and let me know. Those thrift store NES accessories here. And then this is what I picked up from my buddy Josh. Formula 1 Built to Win on the NES. Kind of an obscure NES title, not super expensive. And he threw in Wings of Fury for free, $20 for the both of those there. And then that action set box here, which I actually realized is a different box variant of the orange Zapper gun variant that I did not already have for my collection, so I might be keeping both of them. And finally for pickups, here is that Zelda print that Sabrina won in the silent auction for $90, which I thought was kind of cheap for what this was. You know, obviously a really nice framed Zelda print, but it was signed by not only Patricia, but also some of the other voice actors and actresses that were in the game. So I'm going to end this video with some footage I took at the Q&A we attended. If you guys want to dip out now, it's all good, but I thought some of you might find this interesting, so thanks for watching, guys. Take care.
So dancing, singing musicals, and I thought, my gosh, I've been sort of doing this since I was young, and at some point it made sense to actually pursue it in college. And so that's what I did, and I found voice acting at that same time. So I was taking some courses in voice acting at the same time as doing a theater degree, and realized that you could actually make a living, or at least, you know, try to make a living doing this thing, and I was riveted and just knew it was going to be a part of my career. So I started right in college pursuing that stuff. Always had a fascination for voice though before, which I think is, you know, just one of those things that happens to you. Some people do, some people don't. And everybody has a very different way into this career. If anybody who's here for Dean's earlier, Dean Haglund, who is our special guest this year. Dean Haglund, a lone gunman from the X-Files, as well as an improviser who's done stuff around the world, done shows around the world. Yes.
How'd you come up with the voice for Princess Zelda? Was it the director telling you what to do, or did you?
So I kind of came up with the voice. Okay, so the audition story for this particular game is kind of funny. Like a lot of video games, I went in auditioning for it not knowing what it was. It was a secret game. It actually happened to me during a move to LA, which I had done from Canada for my career. I'd become a Canadian citizenship, and like, now I have both. So I can go back and forth at some point at will, and I'm gonna make that big jump to LA. It was the first thing I auditioned for when I got to LA, which is never had, it's a super weird story. But again, it was secret, so I was like, oh my gosh, there seems to be this cool game. I just got in with a new casting director, and I just want to make a really good impression. So I got these audition specs. I went in and I sort of examined them, and they were, the age was sort of transient, and that was, no, I was like, oh my phone is ringing, I'm so sorry, hold on. On set, if your phone rings, you have to pay people $100, like boom. Yeah, that's what I've always been told. That's probably low, and also they'll just be like, we hate you. It's bad, it's such bad form. Yes, so I auditioned for this game that I didn't know what it was. The specs were basically a princess, a fantasy princess, UK origin, UK fantasy-based world. So I was like, okay, Game of Thrones, so maybe an RP accent, you know, like a sort of standard, educated British. That's what I went with. Mid-Atlantic. They sort of said somewhere in that zone they were going for. And then they said like age range 19 to sort of transient age, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. Omnipresent age and this and that, you know. It's like, huh. So she's like older than her years, but she's young, and And I was like, okay, that sounds like something magical, you know, I was like trying to go with these ideas. And then I would just practice for some hours, pitch it around, and then sort of presented what I had. And then weeks later, call back, got some direction in the room. They tried out the range a little bit. They tried a few different things. And I'm like, ooh, looks like I got a callback. This is great. Also tried out for the other characters, like, I'm trying to think of like Mifa, Urbosa, who I thought I might have a good chance of getting because they usually play low-voiced warrior women, which is super funny. Now Elizabeth Maxwell, who does that part brilliantly, is a great friend of mine, so we have a lot of fun together. And she jokes about how she auditioned for Zelda, and Urbosa had a Scottish accent first, when she first auditioned, which is super funny if you know the voice in the game. And then she did like some sort of actually breathy high British voice for Zelda, but mine was clearly better, so I got that part. Very funny anyway. Yeah, so then after the callback, went in, heard some weeks later after that I got an A part, and then found out after signing a lot of NDAs what the part was. And that was going in to record the trailer. And it was pretty shocking, and amazing, and continues to be amazing. Yes.
Have you been working on the sequel then, or can you say?
I cannot say anything about the sequel, I'm sorry.
Come on!
Yeah. I've been asked this maybe 100 times in the last like couple of months, so. But yeah, no, can't say anything about that. Neither confirm nor deny, just but thank you for asking.
Could you blink twice if you are
Blink twice over the course of a minute and they'll know that you've worked on it. Yeah. Anyway, yes.
When did you do the DLC, like the DLC?
The DLC of Zelda, in the first game. So the first game, it came out in March, and then we did the DLC. The DLC was released in December, and I think we did that recording for the DLC separately, and I think it was around like August that we actually went in for that session. So it was at a different time. I think that's as much as I can say about that, but yeah.
Do you think your voice differed from when you recorded the whole first set of the game to when you did the DLC?
It very well may have, and the thing is, like, those things are recorded from, you know, like, it takes 9 months of recording to do that, and your voice changes, your understanding of the character changes, the dialogue might be tweaked as you're going, and then you get to go back in and record it later, and you might make new creative choices that you would prefer. The director might have a better idea of what he wants to ask of you. So many things happen. It evolves as naturally as any character that you do. It's just like doing a piece of theater. It's like when you're live and you start on a first night and you go a month later to the end of a run, completely different show. Tightened up, different, people are making completely different choices, some of them set, some of them not. And it really is the same when you take on a character for a game or anything else where you have a process through it, as we did. So yeah, I'm sure I might have sounded a little bit different. Yeah, so a lot of other, I did play the original Zelda, I played some Ocarina of Time in high school, played Twilight Princess, and about 40 hours of Breath of the Wild. But when Breath of the Wild came out, I was so inundated with the experience of being in the game that I was like, wow, I am like living this game, and if I have any more of this game, I'm not going to be anywhere else in the world right now, so it was pretty intense when it first came out. So, but yes, I love a lot of games, and I like some indie games. I'm thinking Never Alone is one when people ask me about favorite game. There's this great game set in the Arctic with a little girl and her fox, and they're running to the end, and it's actually really simple graphics, but it tells, yeah, I love that game. It brings tears to my eyes when I think about it, like how nicely the storytelling is, how simple it is, and how you can play it with a family and everything. So stuff like that, yeah. I'm trying to think about. I played some Assassin's Creed. Never played Siege, which people ask me sometimes, and I'm like, that is so hard, and I cannot. I watch the pro players, and then it freaks me out, and then I'm like, I can't be like a bad player as Ash. It just doesn't work. So anyway, but yeah, I do game a bit, but I'm not a huge gamer, and I wouldn't have time to do that anyway.
Any favorite systems, Nintendo or?
Well, right now I do have a Switch. And it's an amazing, I've been playing some Rayman on the Switch, and I love that game with the synced up music, and like Black Betty, like, yeah, Minion Black Betty, things like that. It's really hilarious. So I would say the Switch right now, but before that, I don't know, the PS4 is a pretty amazing system. So I would go with that as a second.